Alright, what's up YouTube? What's up YouTube? It's your boy JFlood201 back with another reaction, alright? And we're gonna get right into it. We've got the probable cause affidavit here in front of us for the Charlie Kirk shooter. I think we can say that on the two of you. But yeah, so we got here the state of Utah. It is a state case. It's not federal. He didn't travel. I guess the rally that Charlie Kirk was at was in Utah, which means that he didn't cross state lines to commit this felony, which means it does give authority of the state to control the case. Interesting things to consider. Utah still does have a DP or a unalive penalty for people who commit first degree aggravated unaliving. And you know, here we see the affidavit probable cause right in front of us. The offense date, the description, the statute codes that they use. They're you know, and keep in mind that they can upgrade his charges or downgrade his charges. We've also got here, this is done by, oh yeah, let me just shout them out real quick so that my video doesn't get taken down. This is Law and Crime Sidebar with Jesse Weaver, where they go into not just some of the Discord messages, but they talk about the legality side of things, which is really great. Definitely go check out their page, give it a like, a comment, and if you feel obligated, give them a subscribe. You know, they're going to be covering other content too. But as we see him here in front of like whatever school or something, you know. But let me see if I can find the still frame where they talk about some of this. But basically, there it is. Okay. Elevated risk of committing violent crimes. No, he scored very low on what a lot of you guys, if you're familiar with my channel or if you've ever been to jail yourself, right? So you get a score, all right? And that score is whether you're like, you know, what tier you're going to go to, what type of other violent, if it's a violent offense or not, what type of other offenders you're going to be housed within the state corrections facilities. Whether that's, you know, I think he's probably still in county jail right now. You know, they haven't, he hasn't gone to, what's the first thing of the trial when they make sure that they want those charges and everything. I mean, he's got to do his charges hearing. He's got a, you know, a grand jury. So it hasn't gone to a grand jury. Like, this is all brand new. It just happened. So these are like booking charges. He's only got his booking charges, so what they have probable cause for and what he's accused of right now, and then also his score, his offender score or assessment. And they've given him like you know, basically, you know, he checks kind of all of the boxes that our society uses to say that, you know, he's not your typical violent offender, and his likelihood of committing other violent acts, he actually scores very low on this. Probably because he's never been arrested before. He probably has a certain like degree of education. I don't know if he completed college or not, but he definitely has like a high school diploma. He was probably employed at the time, right? You know, he's got family members in his life. He can probably, you know, his dad is a sheriff from what I understand. So, you know, he checks a lot of those boxes, right? He's got the complexion for affection, okay, in the criminal justice system. So, elevated risk of committing violent crimes, no. So, he's going to score a 0, right? Maybe a 1 because of the initial charges include, you know, felony 1 unaliving. But he's scoring a 0 or a 1. He's not a gang member. He doesn't have visible gang tattoos. He doesn't have prior arrests. There was no restraining order at the time. You know, probably no police contact at all throughout his entire life, other than positive interactions with police through his father. And you know, so he's got a no risk thing. He did, however, get his bail remanded. So his bail has been remanded, and the reason is because of what he's accused of, and also because they do feel like he's going to be a flight risk. Okay. So when you got something like that, they also take into consideration, do you have money? Do you have a car? And then if you have those things, do you travel a lot or often? And is your thing serious enough for you to dip out and bounce. Now, if he's never been in trouble before, another thing that they can use to say that he might be a flight risk is he's never had a court date before and shown up. So, like, me, when I get my score, I've been to every single one of my court dates for any offense I ever had, whether that's a traffic violation, whether that's an assault, whether that's a disorderly person, whether that's a drug offense, that sort of stuff, is all on my record, and I've shown up for all of my court dates. So I still get a low score because they know I'm showing up to court. I'm not bouncing, right? I'm not a flight risk. I'm not a gang member, so I don't get a gang score. I usually score a 0 or a 1. When I score a 1, it's because I have prior arrests, okay? So those are all things that they kept in mind, but also then you also have to take into consideration, like, his act of violence was extremely public. There's witnesses, there's the chance of hurting others in the act. Like, what if he had missed and then hit somebody else, or would he have kept trying to, hit his target, right? Would he have conducted more violence in order to meet this out, right? So those are all things that they considered. As we see his offenses here, he's got felony discharging of a firearm, obstruction of justice, because because they consider Charlie Kirk like a political figure, you know what I mean? Which is kind of like, a good lawyer might be able to shut that one down, because I don't know. I don't know. That's one of those things where it's like, how good is your lawyer, and like, what was your reasoning for doing this? And on the prosecution side, they're gonna say his reason for doing this is obvious. He did not like what Charlie Kirk was saying, and it was of a political nature. So there is this obstruction of justice. On top of that, he might have tried to destroy evidence, right? He ran from the scene. That's obstruction. He ditched the firearm in some bushes. That's obstruction. And then he fled the scene and tried to, maybe even tried to get away, right? That's all obstruction, okay? Some things to keep in mind is that it has been confirmed, right? It has been confirmed that he has a boyfriend, and he was living with his boyfriend. His boyfriend, all right, we're going to go to Google. We're going to go Tyler Robinson, boyfriend. And as you see, here's the New York Post article that talks about it. We're going to pause that because I don't, But basically here on the New York Post, this is Lance Twiggs, who is now, I'm sure, much more feminine looking, I'm assuming. But here's what I wanted to talk about is the statements that were said about the boyfriend. So this is really interesting stuff. And the reason it's interesting is because they were in a romantic relationship, the two of them, and Lance Twiggs is now becoming a woman. Or, at least that was what the neighbors said, as well as some family members. Some of the other things that the family members said were that, he's very left-wing. He constantly talks about how upset he is at conservatives. And, the other things that were said by his family members was he was the black sheep of the family, and that, he was disturbed, that he was unhinged. They would use words like that. Keep in mind, this is not the person who committed the violent act. This is the boyfriend of the person who committed the violent act. What makes me question that is, if you're in a conservative state and your entire family is conservative, Bible-thumping, church-going people, and then you discover you're gay, and then on top of that, you like furry stuff, and then you decide you want to become a woman, no wonder you're the black sheep of your family. No wonder the rest of your family is going to say things like you're unhinged and stuff. So we don't know, like, just how unhinged or if this person's actually disturbed or not. We just know that they didn't fit in with their family, and that their family views stuff like that as disgusting and abhorrent and stuff like that. That they align themselves more or less with, like, Charlie Kirk's views. So what is interesting is the meme stuff, too. The memes, there was some confusion in the media about the memes. At first, they posted the memes and they were like, it's a groyper, he's far MAGA, he's so far right that he likes Nick Fuentes and stuff. Turns out that while they are avid gamers and that they use things like Discord to communicate and stuff like that, that the memes are also popular on the far left. Some of these memes, like the ooh woo or whatever, I don't know how to do it. I've seen other people do it. I'm not, I use Discord and I love gaming and stuff too, but I'm not really part of the scene, so I don't know what's up with this stuff. I play Call of Duty, you know what I mean? I play World of Warcraft, which is probably the nerdiest one that I play. But I'm not a big meme guy. I'm not on 4chan. I do go to Reddit sometimes and stuff, but I don't know what the furry community is talking about. You know what I mean? I don't know what the new slang is in the trans community either. I do support the trans community. I have friends that are trans, I have friends that are gay, all that type of stuff, but I'm not really like up to date on what they are calling each other or what their memes are or where they hang out or what messaging apps they're using. I don't know that stuff. What I do know is that these two individuals that were living together were raised in a community where guns were avid, where one of them was a good, essentially a crack shot, had grown up probably hunting, probably learning firearms from his father who was a sheriff. And if you're that person's boyfriend, right, and this person is outspoken, is maybe even taking hormones at this point, thinking about doing surgery and other things like that to become more feminine and all this stuff, you would get pretty upset too. That being said, this is still horrible and confusing and just downright awful. You know what I mean? Like, has anybody seen Dog Day Afternoon? So Dog Day Afternoon, Al Pacino plays a boyfriend of a trans person, and he robs a bank so they can go get the money for his boyfriend to get surgery to become a woman. This was made in the 80s, maybe even the late 70s. I'll have to Google the movie Dog Day Afternoon. Dog Day Afternoon. So this movie is essentially the plot of what the heck happened, for lack of a better word. This is what happened, is that you got some guy out there whose boyfriend/girlfriend is like all upset because they can't become a woman, and this guy takes it into his own hands and he goes and he robs a bank and he takes people hostage. It's a very good movie. If you've never seen Dog Day Afternoon, go watch it. All right. But this stuff is super interesting. There we go. See, this is the boyfriend. You know what I mean? They lived in an $1,800 per month townhouse together. They're both in their 30s. You know what I mean? They're pretty like your typical Midwestern dudes that then I guess discovered that they were, I don't know if he's a woman, if you'd call them gay or not, but it's very bizarre. That's the best way to put it. This entire scenario is straight out of a frickin' movie. This whole thing is bizarre. Some people are saying that it's very brave for the trans person to assist. And, I've seen a lot of media say that. So I'm going to go as far as to say maybe it is very brave, I personally don't know if that person is trying to... I don't know if that person is trying to save themselves or if they are being brave. Like, there's an amount of disingenuousness in it for me, because it's like, well, if you were constantly saying how much you hate Charlie Kirk and, how awful these right-wing guys are and stuff, and listen, they do say some messed up stuff. I've seen the Charlie Kirk clips. I'm not here to say he's a martyr, but I certainly don't think he deserved what happened to him. That is god-awful. You know what I mean? He was a believer. Even if I don't subscribe to his brand of Christianity, I do consider myself a Christian. And to take somebody out because they have far-right beliefs is just as bad as taking somebody out because they have far-left beliefs. You know what I mean? They're twins of the same nature. The far-left shooter and the far-right-wing killer are one and the same. You know what I mean? And that's what's so interesting about this case, is that it really starts to blur these lines. The memes, the reasoning, you got the footage here. You know, he's trying to like look like your typical right-wing dude, I guess, but still conceal his identity. He's got like the American flag with the eagle on his shirt. It's just super bizarre. So he's on Discord, right?
Donald Trump calls Jack Chitter.
He's on Discord, and they got the Discord messages, so we're gonna watch the Discord messages.
100% MAGA.
I support the president wholeheartedly.
Chitterelli supported Trump's Medicaid
my bad.
cuts, targeting 300,000 in Jersey. Jack Chitterelli, 100% MAGA, wrong for New Jersey.
Build a website you love.
They're still sending me Jersey ads. That's funny.
For your words?
100 West. By the way, we knew.
All right, we got so weird. Not trick-or-treating with the boys this year. Off they go. So, you know, he's Donald Trump. You know what I mean? Or he's on top of Donald Trump. I don't get it. You know what I mean? I'm not really up to date on what people in Utah think is funny. I'm just gonna be honest with you. Utah's a weird state. But the whole thing is just freaking weird. Let's see if we can get to these Discord messages, because that's really more or less the interesting part. Is like, you want to know what's up with these. Look, there he is. He's got the, you know, he clearly had firearms training.
Charged.
That part is not really up for debate, or even like really needs much understanding. There he is holding, like, you know, an
Evidence
RPG.
to support the charge. Therefore, the court orders that Tyler James Robinson is to be held without bail. And just to couple that, there is a you go.
So they're talking about the bail thing. Yeah, obstruction of justice. It's just very interesting. He's gonna be look. This is what they're talking about. They're gonna remand his bail, but he's still not gonna be put in these like pods with like crazy people. You know. Like, I mean, he's going to be around everybody because it's jail, so you're around everybody no matter what. But I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, he's not being categorized as, like, a career criminal violent offender. You know what I mean? And that, to me, is interesting because it also shows, like, how our criminal justice system works. Like, best believe if I got charged with something even similar to this, they're putting me in there with all the Bloods, all the Crips. You know what I mean? Like, they're putting me in with, you know, aggravated robbery and all that type of stuff, you know. So it, like, a lot of it does boil down to how you appear, you know, to a judge, and, you know, how much family is in your corner and stuff like that, and where you come from. But the whole thing is crazy. I guess they don't have any snapshots or screenshots of these Discord messages. But what's interesting is that the trans woman or man that he's living with let the feds take their Discord messages. What that says to me is that they probably are fully cooperating. We don't know if it's because they're nervous and they also want to like be like, yo, I had no idea about all this. And one thing that I will say is I don't believe that they did. I think that they understood that they were fostering an environment where something like this might happen. Like, you know, I also personally believe, after looking at a lot of the photos of Tyler James Robinson, of listening to his personal life and what kind of family he's surrounded by in a state like Utah, he might be learning disabled. Listen, this is not an official report. I didn't get any literature or see any remarks or statements that makes me believe that. That is my opinion, and I am a YouTuber, so take it with a grain of salt, all right? But some of these photos where he's got this goofy grin and stuff, he's dating somebody who's in transition, they're living together. He goes from, like, growing up in this conservative household and kind of, you know, your typical American Midwestern family that might even be pretty MAGA, you know what I mean? They might have some pretty out there beliefs about Christianity and guns and stuff like that, but for the most part, like, there's a lot of people like that all over. And then he goes and starts living with a boyfriend in their own apartment, and then goes off the deep end to where he's like planning an assassination. It might be worth it for them to do some testing in terms of how competent he is as an individual. Because, you know, there's a lot of conspiracy theories out there, you know. you know, did the, like, is he doing this for an agency? You know, is Israel involved? That's one that I keep hearing a lot too. You know, is this a far left conspiracy? Are they trans activists? Are they Antifa? I'm gonna let you know right now, I don't think any of that. I think that they were two weirdos living together. One's weirder than the other, might have a learning disability, is constantly see their boyfriend/girlfriend who's transitioning getting very upset over, you know, politics, the media, people like Charlie Kirk, and then this dude just kind of is like, I know how to make this person even fall more deeply in love with me. I'm gonna go do some crazy you know what I mean? Some crazy shit. And I think that's probably what happened, you know? So back to the Discord, because the partner lets the feds in to their apartment, their place, and hands over the Discord messages, the text messages, the telecommunication between them. They're a couple. They live together. That person is inviting them into their own space. So if they were an accomplice, that would get unraveled very quickly. Which is why I think a lot of people in the media are saying, like, this trans person is being brave for doing this, and I actually am starting to agree with that more and more and more. However, if you didn't have any part in this, I also think it would be the first thing that you do is to say, hey, I want to cooperate. I didn't have anything to do with this, and I'll show you that he is the shooter. Here's the evidence that I have that lets me know that my boyfriend did this, right? So I think it's two-sided. I think that this person is being brave on one hand because, you know, it does take a lot to hand all that over, especially if you actually do care about this person. But they also want to not be in the jail cell next to them or have their face splattered all over media as trans person shoots Charlie or trans person plans with boyfriend to shoot Charlie. So the whole thing is just crazy, bro. Again, it's straight out of, you know, a freaking movie, you know, Dog Day Afternoon. It really is. It's like bizarro world we're living in right now. And all I can say is, you know, did I like Charlie Kirk? No, not really. You know, no, not really. But man, he didn't deserve that, you know. And these people that did it, you're not doing nothing good for nobody. The Democrats don't want you. We want nothing to do with you. The Republicans hate your guts. And all you're doing is making more and more people divided. All right? No trans person or drag queen is going to come visit you in jail and be like, you're a freaking hero for what you did. And if they do, they're sickos. And it's the same for these right-wing guys. Like, you know, Timothy McVeigh. You think Timothy McVeigh was getting letters from Charlie Kirk, or the modern Timothy McVeigh is getting freaking letters from whoever, you know, from David Duke. David Duke's writing him in jail like, way to go, buddy. No, man. Like, nobody wants nothing to do with you. Once you take things into your own hands and you take another human life, you're a freaking criminal. You're nothing but, and they're probably going to fry his ass, all right? And it's probably what he deserves, man. He had high intelligence test scores, so perhaps he might be an autistic savant. Yeah, you know, that's a good one too. We don't know if they discuss CK among other things. We don't know. We don't know what the Discord messages said. You know, I was looking for screenshots of them. We couldn't find anything. I'm sure that somebody's going to get some copies of that, but it's going to be super guarded. It's going to be super guarded. That's like primo evidence right there. The feds are holding on to that super tight. Not the feds. The state police are going to be, you know, holding on to that super tight. I'm sure that they do have some oversight from the feds, knowing how, you know, how friendly Charlie and Trump were, and that kind of like ongoing relationship between the party. But I mean, it's just crazy. This is bizarro world we're living in, man. We're living in bizarro world, dude. Like, for real. This is straight out of a script, okay? Like, this is a movie, guys. This is crazy. And it's just awful because all it does is it divides the American people. But I think I agree with you, Lion, to ya. I think I agree with you, buddy, that, you know, he's probably some sort of weird savant type thing, spending clearly way too much time online because those memes are super weird. But they also showcase that he's got that odd kind of weird sense of humor where it's like he probably doesn't tell jokes, you know what I mean? But he understands them, you know? Because one of the last ones I think was like, if you read this, you're gay, which is clearly like a message to the police knowing that he might get captured. And you gotta wonder who else was in those Discord channels, right? Like, who's he getting advice from? And how many of these other weirdo mass shooters and killers and stuff did he study before doing this? Because that's something that I was talking about with my friends, is I was like, somebody like this who knows how to shoot firearms, who's grown up around them and like understands tracking because he's probably been hunting with his father or whatever, you know, like, this is almost like your quintessential perfect person, like if you were gonna pick who goes out to assassinate somebody. But avoiding surveillance, having a get out, like, you know, having an escape route planned ahead of time, those are all things that take planning. And they also make me believe that he wasn't doing it entirely on his own. And if he was at the very least, he was studying some of these other, you know, assassins and shooters that we've seen in the media over the past, I don't know, 5 to 10 years now it's been with all this god-awful stuff. So anyone, listen guys, that's it for this. That's all I've got so far. I just wanted to put that out there, you know. I hope that we find out more because it is super interesting. And one thing that I think is the takeaway is that if you boil everything down to the facts, you really start to realize that, like, this is a crazy individual in a crazy circumstance, and unfortunately it is tied to the far left. It really is. You can't dodge that at this point. Do I think that the far left will embrace him? No. I myself, you know, am a liberal. I think it's disgusting and gross and weird. You know what I mean? I think it's just like, you know what I mean? Like, if I were in jail with him, I'm taking all of his trays, I'm spitting on him, I'm fucking beating him up, like I'm slapping him around. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he gets no love from nobody for this. This is crazy. And if you're out there praising stuff like this, you need Jesus. Like, that's the crazy part about this, is that the right wing is going to make this all about God and stuff like this. But the real truth is we all need it. We all need Jesus. Say a prayer for this, for Charlie's family, for the young man who's caught up in all this, who is transitioning and stuff like this, and now they're going to be in the public eye. I just pray that everybody find peace, that they come to know Jesus as their Lord and Savior. And, you know, we really need to heal as a nation, you know, because it's a messed up world we're living in. So very confusing. Not all the facts are confirmed. That you couldn't pick a more divisive issue. You couldn't pick a more completely just like back and forth issue with the memes being left and right and is he, isn't he? He was grown up in MAGA, but then he moved in with his boyfriend. It's like ping pong, you know what I mean? It's like boom, 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 boom. And so crazy. Thanks for the comment there, Lion. I hope you guys like, comment, subscribe. Stay tuned for more stuff. I definitely like to cover stuff that has to do with crime, criminology. I do upload some gaming clips and stuff like that. You can follow me on Instagram. I got some workout videos on there too. All right, guys.